Good evening, everyone. My name is Seamus Sykes, and this is PANR's News of the World for all the latest goings on in our world. I'm joined by Noodle, our English correspondent and co-host, and Ash, our weather expert and editor. Tonight is the 27th of September 2021, and here in a moment we'll be getting a rundown of all the stories you can expect to hear tonight from my colleague Noodle. But first, a weather report from Ash. Ash, if you would.
Thank you, Seamus. Today's weather is coming from Yixi, China, where today, as of 6 a.m., it is 15 degrees Celsius with 96% humidity and a mild breeze. Sun is expected throughout the day today, but the rest of the week is looking rather stormy. Thursday and Friday are both showing a forecast of thunderstorms for this week. That's all I have for today. We'll now go over to Noodle, who will start us off for the rest of the evening.
Thank you, Ash. It's good to mind the weather, but now you know what to expect. It's time we take a look at events from around our world. On the docket for today, we were discussing the possibility that Britain may return to the imperial system of measurement. Following this, Russia has been putting pressure on Google and Apple to remove apps of opposition leaders. Then we have some news regarding the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, where a vaccine may soon be available for children as young as 5 years of age. And finally, we'll be hearing promising news regarding Alzheimer's disease. To begin, I would like to discuss the current situation in Britain and how the metric system may soon be left behind. The UK, now post-Brexit and outside the European Union, is now considering switching back to the imperial system for measurements. According to statements from the government, the UK is looking into rules and regulations put in place by the EU, particularly that enforce them to use the metric system in a variety of sales applications and markets. Changing these regulations would have a heavy impact upon transportation, agriculture and tech industries within all of the UK, all of which were banned from using the imperial markings and units under EU legislation. The minister who saw out Brexit, David Frost, announced these plans on September 16th to the cheers of many Brexit supporters. Under the new post-Brexit concept, according to Prime Minister Boris Johnson, a new global Britain is the goal, allowing Britain to remove many regulations that were put in place by the EU. One of these changes, cited by British officials, is the return of blue rather than burgundy passport books, symbolising the country's newfound freedom. Critics of Brexit have found these proposed and initiated changes unimpressive, voicing concerns about the fragile economy against a labour workforce deficit, production deficits, and unresolved trade regulations. Many of these issues only coming to fruition after leaving the European Union. Many of the 48% who voted against leaving the EU have called the proposed changes confusing, as many other issues seem to be far more imposing. David Frost, attempting to reassure those people, saying that these changes were only the beginning of moving to capitalise on the new Brexit freedoms. We'll endeavour to watch this story and keep you updated as it unfolds. In the meantime, however, we must return to the cold world of politics, apps, and Russia. We're all well aware of the stereotypes regarding Russian politics, how cold, cutthroat and deadly they can be, and whether those stories are true or not, we cannot say. However, what we can say is the Russian government is not messing around with the apps of political opposition. Apple and Google have faced scrutiny from both the current Russian government and its opposition for the past several weeks. After removing jailed opposition leader Alexei Navalny's electronic voting app, Navalny, from both app stores, those in support of the opposition have criticized the tech giants for their apparent support of Putin's regime. The app was removed from both stores when the Russian government agency, Roskomnadzor, reached out to both Google and Apple, warning that fines would be issued for election interference if they did not take the app down. Other tech giants, such as Facebook and Twitter, have also faced growing scrutiny from the agency and the Russian government as September 19th election grew closer. Supporters of the opposition and human rights activists have faced major pressure from the government as the next election grows closer, seemingly in an attempt to keep the current regime in power. Back in August, Bella Nesbian of Rostov-on-Don was detained by local police and given a 5-day sentence in jail for propagation of extremist symbols, which they determined from a smart voting sticker posted to her Instagram account. Over 50 websites have also been blocked by the Russian government that have been deemed extremist propaganda. Google and Apple have made no comment about the removal of the app to any major publication. A most delicate situation, to be sure. In lighter news, we turn to Seamus for an update regarding the fight against COVID and vaccine development.
Thank you, Noodle, and I should agree. It is a most delicate situation. However, you are right to say that we do have some lighter news with regards to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and continued work with the vaccine from Pfizer and BioNTech. Before anything, however, I must declare that this report is in regards to information that has neither yet been published or peer-reviewed. It is based on a press release that Pfizer and BioNTech made on the 20th of September 2021. With that, we are all well aware that a vaccine has been available for quite some time now. People aged 16 and older are perfectly capable of being vaccinated as the vaccine is fully approved for them. And anyone from the ages of 12 to 15 may also receive their vaccine as it has been authorized for emergency use, to save lives and help bring an end to this plague. However, children younger than 12 have been left vulnerable, unable to be vaccinated, and now face the disease with a terrifying 29% of all COVID-19 cases being from children too young to be protected in this manner. According to Pfizer and BioNTech, however, this no longer needs to be the case. In a study they've conducted in children aged 5 to 11, they have found the vaccine not only to be safe and tolerated, but to show, quote, a robust, neutralizing antibody response. This study included 2,268 participants aged 5 to 11 who received a 10 microgram vaccine dose in a 2-dose regime. The results of this study showed effects comparable to a control group aged 16 to 25 who received a 30 microgram vaccine dose in a 2-dose regime. The doses in both cases were administered 21 days apart from one another. According to Albert Bourla, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Pfizer, quote, over the past 9 months, hundreds of millions of people ages 12 and older from around the world have received our COVID-19 vaccine. We are eager to extend the protection afforded by the vaccine to this younger population, subject to regulatory authorization, especially as we track the spread of the Delta variant and the substantial threat it poses to children. Bourla continued, since July, pediatric cases of COVID-19 have risen by about 240% in the United States, underscoring the public health need for vaccination. These trial results provide a strong foundation for seeking authorization of our vaccine for children 5 to 11 years old, and we plan to submit them to the FDA and other regulators with urgency. With the data soon to be submitted to regulatory agencies, it is possible we could see a children's vaccine very soon, if not fully approved, at the very least authorized for emergency use. On Monday on CNBC, Dr. Scott Gottlieb, a former FDA commissioner and current Pfizer board member, stated, quote, Pfizer could be in a position to file very quickly. The data came a little earlier than some were expecting, and depending on how long the FDA takes to review the application, whether it's a 4-week review or a 6-week review, you could have a vaccine available to children as early as probably by the end of October. Perhaps it slips a bit into November. We will endeavor to watch this story as it develops and keep you informed as to whether or not the vaccine is approved or authorized for school-aged children. Until then, I will remind you that this report is based on information not yet published and not yet peer-reviewed. As always, our sources are available in the description, and I do encourage you to review them for a more complete understanding of the information we presented here. With that, it's time we took a look at a much older threat, one that takes the mentality of older generations, and some hopeful news in the hunt for better treatments. Losing one's mentality can be incredibly frightening. Your mind dulls, your personality changes, who you once were may be lost, and it's a fact of life that, as we age, this could happen to any among us. One of the most prevalent maladies in this regard is Alzheimer's disease, something most people in our world have some experience with. Whether a family member, friend, or member of your community, we all know of someone afflicted by this dreadful disease. It is no wonder then that researchers from the Curtin University in Perth, Australia, have been hard at work to find answers and help ease the suffering of those so afflicted. With their findings published in the journal PLOS Biology, they have found the likely cause of Alzheimer's. With toxic proteins called beta amyloid leaking into and building up in the brain, Alzheimer's does develop. This has been known for some time, though how it gets there has been something of a mystery, as beta amyloid is not developed within the brain. Through models of mice, we have learned that fat-carrying particles called lipoproteins are just the culprit, depositing the beta amyloid in the brain. While further research is now warranted, this discovery of a blood-to-brain pathway could lead to incredible new treatments and prevention. This a bit of good news for a change, which is so rare. We could all use a little more of it to inspire hope and remind us that the world isn't so terrible. With that, however, it's time we move on to our new reoccurring trivia segment. And if I do say so myself, we have some interesting trivia for you today. Some interesting trivia indeed. It's always fun to learn new things, even if they don't appear helpful in the moment. You never know when you'll need to know something obscure. Today, we'll talk a little bit about Tic Tac mints and their name. While they were originally produced in 1969 under the name Refreshing Mints, their name was changed in only a year. In 1970, Tic Tac took the place of Refreshing Mints, renamed for the iconic clicking sound made by their packaging opening and closing. And with that, I'm afraid we're very nearly out of time. As always, I'd like to remind you that News of the World is researched roughly 1 week before airing, and so any information regarding any story we've reported here may have changed or new details may be available. We here at PANR highly recommend you compare our reports with other, more recent broadcasts for a more complete understanding of events. With that said, Noodle, would you kindly sign us off?
That is all the stories that we have so far. So, we wish you a very happy night and a pleasant tomorrow. It's a good night from me. Good night. Good night from Seamus.
Until next time.
And a good night from Ash.
Good night, everyone.
We'll see you next week, and remember, stay tuned for the latest goings on and stay safe.